Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Mondays, your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. Do me a huge favor. What I always love to do is interact with you on these. I'm not interested in just simply being a talking head. So, for those of you who've been around for a little while, you know the drill. But if you've never been around, I can't see your face. I don't know if you know this. I can't see your face. I can't hear your voice. The next best thing is that you jump inside of the chat and you tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about tonight. Also, do us a huge favor, like this post and share it. That tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. And we really are trying to do a good job. If you guys have ever joined me on a Monday, you know that I don't do fluffy lives. I never waste your time. I'm always giving you stuff that can help you grow as a coach, also as a business person. And so for that, I want to try to get this out in front of as many people as we possibly can. So liking it and sharing it, and also just jumping in the comments, all of those things tell the algorithm, the dreaded algorithm, that we're doing a good job, right? Let me look in here really quickly and say hello to some people who are saying hello to me. There's Patrick joining us from Illinois. Good to see you, Patrick. Tiffany saying good afternoon. Where are you joining us from, Tiffany? And let me see if I can close that. Tiffany says that she will share. Thanks so much. Chris joining us from Colorado. Welcome. Chris, I've been so excited watching Coach Prime over there. I have no idea where you're at in Colorado, but the entire world is watching the Colorado Buffaloes, who, interestingly enough, I'm not just that kind of fan. Well, I'm only partially that kind of fan that likes America's team. But my cousin Brandon did play for the Colorado Buffaloes. He was a lineman, and he got signed by I think the Tennessee Titans, and then didn't get to play it down in the NFL, but he got signed, so that was pretty cool. Sandy's joining us from New Jersey. Good to see you, Sandy. And Tiffany's joining us from Oregon. Awesome. Anybody else like to say hello to us? Tell us where you are joining us from. Let us know you're here. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about tonight. If you've got any questions, you've got any comments tonight, throw them right here in the chat widget. Jump in there. Jump in the chat widget. Also, like this post and share it. That tells you YouTube and Facebook that we're doing a good job. And like I said, we do try really hard to give you worthwhile stuff and not waste your time, because I know your time is precious as well. And so if you're going to join us, some of you are, it's almost 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast, I should say. Boy, I'm really stuck in the West Coast. I almost said Central Coast, where I currently am right now. Bermuda. All right. So Karen's joining us from Bermuda. Very good. Awesome. Well, keep those comments coming. Let me give you this as a reminder. In the ticker, early bird rate for boot camp, which is November 3rd through the 5th, is ending on Friday. You can save about 25% by getting enrolled. You can click the link inside the description of this video, and you can get enrolled really, really quickly. But honestly, I don't know that I want that scroller up there. Can we do something about that? I'm thinking that I don't want that scroller on there, and maybe we can record it in-house, and then that way you guys can have the scroller, and then I can fix that in the future. Rhonda is joining us from Arizona. Good to see you, Rhonda. What we're going to try to do is, I want to keep that scroller going, that ticker going, but maybe we can just record this thing in-house, and we can have the best of both worlds, because I want to actually record tonight, but I don't really want to have that scroller on it for the future. What are we talking about tonight? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview. Let me say hello to Sean joining us from California. I want to give you a little bit of a preview of what's to come for boot camp weekend, because this is a small portion of session 1 that we include both in the Life Coach Certification course, which is our self-paced course, which is also $195. We do Tuesday night live training for that. but it's also self-paced. So you can go through those modules on your own schedule. And boot camp weekend, this is part of session 1 in boot camp weekend. So even though I'm trying to inform and I'm trying to grow all of you, you'll find this information and the complete version of it is actually included inside of our course. So what are we talking about tonight specifically? We're talking about the difference between counseling, therapy, and coaching. Now, why do we need to talk about that? Well, the reason why we need to talk about it is because, well, I find that a lot of coaches are kind of blurring the lines of it. And not coaches who go through training, not coaches who go through certification typically. It's the coaches who are out there just saying, you know what, I have an experience in my life. And because of my experience in my life, then I'm going to apply that experience and just call myself a coach. And what they're doing in many cases is that they are applying their experience of maybe battling with clinical depression, and maybe they got victory in that area of their life, or they're managing it really well. Or you'll see some people who have an experience, a really difficult time that they walk through in their life, where they experience some kind of a trauma. And sometimes people will say, well, what qualifies me is my experience with this and the fact that I got a victory in this area. Now, I'm not dismissing that. I will tell you this, that it does give you credibility. It does connect you uniquely to who your ideal client is when you've had these experiences, and what you've really walked away with is a path to victory, a key to victory. And it really connects you with people. But there is a challenge that I need to address tonight, because I see a lot of coaches who are really blurring the lines between coaching and counseling and therapy. And I'm really concerned about it, because they're saying things about coaching, or they're saying things that they can do through their coaching. And granted, it's not everybody. It's a select few who are out there on Instagram, and everything that they're posting about is trauma. Everything they're posting about is depression. Everything that they're posting about is whatever. And they haven't actually been trained in those things, but they have an experience. And they're trying to apply their experience towards coaching. And I'm not devaluing coaching. I think that coaching's for coaching, and it's for people who are coachable, and that's a certain type of person. And I think that counseling and therapy are for people who need counseling and therapy. And they're just on different ends of the spectrum when it comes to helping people. And what I'm going to try to do tonight is I'm going to try to help you see what the difference is. Because for one, you're going to be a more informed coach walking away from tonight. You're going to actually get in your lane. You're also going to practice ethically and legally, and you're going to stay away from liability issues. Because coaches who do not stay in their lane are opening up themselves to liability issues. And so we're going to try to do those very kinds of things. Let me say hello to anybody else I need to say hello to. Someone had a question about scholarships. No, we can't do scholarships because we're already a fraction of what everybody else charges out there. If you notice what the average coaching program is, between $4,000 to $10,000, and we're doing exceptional amount of training for only $195. But there is a payment plan, so you can get in on that for $53 a month, or for boot camp, which is next weekend, for $47 a month for 6 months. And so those are the options that we can offer. All right, so let's jump in. What is the difference between counseling and therapy and coaching? Well, the first thing that I would say differentiates counseling and therapy from coaching is who it is that we're actually working with. There's a distinct difference between the types of people that counselors and therapists are working with and the ones that coaches work with. And here's how we would distinguish those people. In the coaching world, who are we trying to help? Well, we are helping people who are living in a high degree of wholeness. And when I say high degree of wholeness, I'm not saying that anybody has all their ducks in a row. I don't, you don't, your clients don't. There's no one who has all of their ducks in a row. But what we are saying about these people, and this probably represents about 80 to 90% of people actually fit in this group. It's we've been through things, but what we're talking about is we've been through things and we have gotten to a degree of healing and wholeness that we're able to take charge in our life in specific areas and know exactly what we want. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that people that we're coaching have maybe dirty lenses, or they have what I would say are upgradable lenses. So when you see those glasses there, they're not just sunglasses, though they could be sunglasses. What we're really talking about is that sometimes people need to clean their lenses. Like they went through a time when they realized I'm not seeing things so well. And what did they do? They went through a process and they couldn't prescribe for themselves what they needed. So they went through a process and they went through what? A lens change. This happened for every one of you with any transformation that you've had in your life. You went through a lens change. There was a way that you began to see yourself, to see other people, see your circumstances, see the world differently, and that changed everything. For some of you, it's because, well, when you were growing up, you were taught something, or maybe you went through something really difficult. I'll give you an example. When it comes to money, and I only use money because almost everybody has an emotional reaction to money. What's making people have an emotional reaction to money? Is it money themselves? Well, I can tell you what it is. It's an experience. From when? From when they were children in most cases. So when people have a really negative emotional reaction, because sometimes you can talk to people and they can say something like, I hate money. Well, what would make someone hate money? Money hasn't done anything to anyone. Money's just, well, it's just a thing, right? But here's the deal is that it's what money represents to them. It's the meaning of money. So if you grew up, when you grew up, you had certain, what I would say are reference points around money. And you got this idea, this belief, this thought of I hate money. Well, it's resting on something. You have some reference points. Like what? Well, maybe you grew up and your parents argued over money. Maybe there was a lack of money. Maybe you felt the tension of that. Maybe your parents told you you couldn't have something, or we don't have enough money for that. Or maybe they actually told you that they were poor, or maybe they said something about rich people, or any number of things. And so what ends up happening is that we grow up with these reference points, and what do? Is that ultimately they become a lens. Now, if you grow up your entire life hating money, guess what you will not have? You will not have something that you hate. If you hate something, you're going to avoid it, right? But we have seen people who grew up in poverty and had some of the similar, even maybe harder stories than we did. And something happened in the way that they saw themselves and the way that they approached money. Not that they necessarily fell in love with money or anything else, but their disposition, their lens, by the way that they saw themselves, the way that they saw money, but the way they saw other people, the way that they saw the world, the way that they actually saw their circumstances. Because there are some people who repeat the cycles from when they were growing up because they share the same lens about money today that they did when they were little kids. Now, how do you actually change a lens? Well, first of all, you got to notice that you're seeing in a clouded state. I don't wear glasses. I should. I have terrible eyesight. We were in Yosemite this past week, and I was looking at all the pictures that we took. And I was like, wow, Yosemite was really beautiful. I'm glad that we've got all these great pictures. And my wife's like, yeah, I know you were there. And I was like, yeah, I was there, but I didn't have glasses on, so I didn't realize what I wasn't seeing until I looked at the pictures. Every now and then, my daughters will wear glasses and they'll wear contacts, but sometimes they'll just put their glasses on for a few days because it's more convenient or whatever. And I was looking at my daughter the other day, and she had it almost looked oily on her lens. I was like, when's the last time you cleaned your glasses or whatever? And so I took her glasses, I cleaned her glasses, and I gave them back to her. And then she's looking, she's like, oh, wow, I can really see now. So you don't realize what you're not seeing, but see, here's what happens is that there's nothing wrong with the glasses. You just need to clean them. And sometimes you need to get your lenses upgraded. How? Well, you get them upgraded because you realize you're not seeing as well as you should. And you know what you can do? You can address those bad belief systems. And you can actually, when you are a whole person, you can go after certain belief systems and certain thinking that you know is not serving you very well. That's what a whole person is able to do, really on their own. Now, here's the thing. That's who we're helping in terms of who we coach. When it comes to counseling and therapy, it's a little bit different. I want you to look at the lenses that are in the lens that's in the bottom right. You notice how that lens looks different? It's a cracked or it's a broken lens. Now, here's what I can tell you, and it doesn't take rocket science to tell you this. When it comes to a broken or a cracked lens, I can't get something and just spray it and wipe it off like I did for my daughter, right? Might actually cut myself, might injure myself. I remember when I was growing up, sometimes when there would be like a really deep scratch on something, I would see people, the first thing that they would try is to spit on it and see if they could rub it out. Well, let's see how deep this thing really goes. How bad is it? But see, with a cracked lens, with a broken lens, there's something else that's going on that, well, I can't address this as a coach. Who do I need to address it? Well, I need a counselor or a therapist to address that. What's making me say that? Well, because for them, and I just realized that I don't have the slide up that I wanted. Give me 1 second. I'm going to see if maybe I just put it out of order. And that's what I did. I put it out of order. So just pretend like that didn't happen. So for a counselor or a therapist, who are they helping? Well, they are helping people who need healing. That is the key word there. People who need healing. People with broken lenses. So when I say that, there's nothing wrong with the people. I want to make sure that I'm clarifying this. We value all people. All people have value. All people need help. All people need the right kinds of help for whatever is going on in their life. And when it comes to someone with broken or cracked lenses, I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm just saying, well, they need the proper person to help them. There is a reason why counseling and therapy is paid for under medical insurance. How can it get paid for by medical insurance? Because when you have a hurt, when you have a bobo, when you have a wound, what do? You go and you see a doctor. And a doctor diagnoses. And what do? When they diagnose, they tell you, well, and what do you usually tell them? Here's where it hurts. So when someone goes in to see a counselor or a therapist, they're telling you where it hurts. A broken lens can't be fixed. A cracked lens can't be fixed with spit or trying to rub it out or trying to help them see the bright side of things. And so coaches who want to apply coaching to these kinds of things are not going to see success, and it actually could be very dangerous for that individual. Really, it's a liability issue for you. If you're out there saying, well, coaching can help your clinical depression because I was able to fix my clinical depression. Coaching can help your addiction over here. Coaching can help because that is not what you're trained to do. You're not licensed for that. And so coaching does not treat. It is not a replacement for treatment. And so we should not be offering coaching to the people who this cannot help. This person needs to see what? They need to see a doctor, right? Now, as we're looking at this, let's think about it in this case. Let's say that you're a relationship coach. Someone comes to you and they're like, "Hey, I'm calling you up," and they're like, "Hey, I'm looking for the love of my life. That's why I want to work with you. I think I've got a really good idea of who that ideal person is, and man, I really just want to fall in love and and marry my soulmate and all this. And you're like, oh, this sounds awesome. You know, you got that voicemail that was left, or you get that email that was sent or something like that. And you're like, so excited, I'm going to get a client or whatever. Then you start talking to them and you do a little bit of an intake with them. And you're like, well, tell me, what kind of relationships have you had in the past? What do you like? What do you not like? And then the person starts saying, well, you know, I don't like people who talk to me like I'm dirt. And you're like, okay, talk to you like dirt. Okay, well, keep going on. Yeah, I don't like people who talk to me like I'm dirt, who treat me like I'm stupid, who lock me up in a closet or won't let me have freedom, that are always making me stay at home, that don't trust me, that are always calling me and are always controlling me and are always looking at the app to try to figure out where I'm at and who I'm talking to and are always checking my phone. And the more that you're asking questions, you're just kind of like, man, this sounds a little concerning here. And then you ask a few more questions, and then that you find out that the person has been in an abusive relationship with a control freak for the last like 5 years of their life. And now they've gotten out of this abusive relationship, and now they've got them, but I've got a restraining order on them now, and I'm just ready. I'm really ready to start out a new life. And that was like 3 or 6 months ago. Is there a possibility that they have a cracked or a broken lens? Is it a possibility that they don't know, because a cracked or broken lens is not able to see accurately? Is it very possible that they don't know what love is? Is it possible that they've never really been loved? Is it possible that they don't have a value or self-worth or self-esteem? Or, I mean, there's a lot of things. And here's the thing. I'm not here to diagnose them, because that's not what I'm here to do, because I'm a coach. But when I hear these kinds of indicators, when I see these kinds of things, I'm kind of like, you know what? This needs to be fixed before you go on to coaching. That's what I'm here to tell every one of you. 80 to 90% of people are coachable people. Do not coach the wrong kinds of people. Let them get the right kind of treatment. How do I know, Paul? Well, if somebody comes to you and they're like, you know, I want to see you as a coach because I'm struggling with clinical depression and I don't feel like my therapist is helping me. Well, if you ever talk to a counselor or a therapist about those kinds of things, they can tell you that's true for a lot of their people. And a counselor or a therapist, it's not up to them, because even for them, they can't fix people. They have to help them get healed so that what? Now they can see through the eyes of wholeness. And now, you know what that person could do? Maybe it takes them 6 months, maybe it takes them a year, maybe it takes them a couple of years. And now they suddenly, through the lens of wholeness, they can see the right kind of person, love themselves, be worthy of love, feel worthy of love, see the kinds of people. What happens a lot of times when people have bad relationships, they find more bad relationships. And you learn a lesson last time and they don't. What is that? It's a broken lens. So again, we want to make sure that these people are connected with the right kinds of people who can actually serve them. And and hear me out. I respect the fact that some of you have overcome major kinds of things and major obstacles in your life and everything else. And I'm not taking anything away from your story in that. I'm just going to tell you, if you want to help someone with trauma, early stages trauma, still in the victim stages of abuse and all that other stuff, you want to help people in recovery or whatever, go the distance. Go get the right kinds of training, even if it takes you a few years, because here's the thing, is that I know that some of you are called to that. And if you're called to that, then go and do it. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So let's catch up on this. Let's talk a little bit more about the differences between counseling and therapy and coaching. And what I'm about to say, I'm going to really, really generalize. And so for those of you who have a counseling therapy background, well, just know I'm generalizing. I have to make these this distinguishable for the people who are watching. Even though some of you who have a counseling and therapy background, you might disagree with me a little bit, but I've got to draw lines in the sand so that my coaches stay in their lane. So counseling and therapy, it's really all about what is your focus. When I say focus, what we're really talking about, let me see if I can actually draw this really quick. when we talk about focus, what we're saying is how does a therapist listen that's different than a coach? And therapists are often going to ask this question that coaches do not ask. And it is the why question, that three-letter word, why. Now, it's important for a counselor or therapist to ask that question because why is going to enable them to go to the past, because that's where they're going to be focused. They're going to go to the past. They're going to look in the rearview mirror and they're going to ask why questions. Why is this person in pain? It's a diagnosis question. How long have you been hurting? How long has it been feeling like this? Let's go back in time and let's retrace the footsteps and let's try to figure out how you came to this, how you came to this conclusion, why this lens is broken like it is and everything else. And so they'll visit past traumas, they'll different experiences and everything else in order to find what was the root of this issue and where did it begin. Because healing starts at a root. Go to the root. Let's dig around the root. Let's get the root out and let's see healing come there so you can move forward. And that makes a lot of sense. So counselors and therapists have a focus on fixing broken things. Why? Because counseling and therapy is all about healing. That's what's going on there. If you didn't need healing in some kind of a way, then you wouldn't need to see a counselor or a therapist. But you need healing if you have a broken lens. So they're going to fix broken stuff, and it is problem focused. Last thing that I would say about it is that it is expert led. If I had a picture of what that looks like in terms of a therapist working with their patient, and I'm not saying this in any kind of a way to say anything bad about anybody. I'm saying that really the role looks kind of like this. See, the patient doesn't know what's wrong. They've got all kinds of questions. They don't know what's wrong. But the therapist, well, they have all the answers. Because this person has a broken lens. So how could they possibly know how to fix themselves? They can't. And so that's why that relationship really makes a lot of sense. Now, when it comes to coaching is the opposite focus. As a matter of fact, what coaches do not do is we do not ask the why question at all. And some of you who have gone through our training, you know that when you turn in your assignments, if you use the why question at all in a sentence, then you fail the assignment. We're so serious about that why question because why is a question of diagnosis, and why does something in the coaching conversation. You know what it does? Why moves you from being a partner with the client to now you are the one who has the answers, and you're trying to get them to, well, what does why do to you? Why often puts you doesn't allow you to be very creative in your answers. And when you hear why questions like, why did you do that? What does it sound like? Well, why puts you in a defensive posture in many cases. Counselors and therapists have to build rapport for quite a while before they're able to even go in diagnosis because they know the why question needs to be asked. But for the most part, people see it as a threat. And so counselors and therapists have to take their time, even with those kinds of things. We're not counselors and therapists. We're not in diagnosis mode. You know what we are doing? We're not asking why questions. We're asking how questions. We're asking what questions. What does how do? How is all about responsibility. It is all about the client taking ownership and becoming an owner in their life. We want them to feel what? Empowered. So when we ask a how question, so if somebody came to you and you're coaching them, let's say that I came to you and you were like, well, we're talking about my job and how much I hate my job and everything else, and I want a career change. And you said something like, what's keeping you from quitting your job? And I was like, I can't quit my job. There's no way I could. When somebody says I can't, what does that sound like? It sounds like a powerless person. It sounds like a person who doesn't have a choice. It sounds like a person who doesn't have autonomy. And your job as a coach is not to allow me to believe that story. So I'm going to ask a how question. If you had, how could you leave your job? If you had a whole year to work on it, how could you leave your existing job to have a career change? What would you have to do? And now, when I just say, how can I? Now I've put myself, now I'm not saying, oh, I can't do that, because can't takes you out of the game. How can I already engages the creative process, even as big as somebody wants to think. Let's say you have 5 years to leave your job right now. What could you do? Now with 5 years, well, somebody can come up with a few things in 5 years to get out of their current job. Okay, and what do we want them to do then? Well, now you know what you could do. Now, how do you do that in 12 months? How do you do that in 6 months? See, so we ask how questions and what kinds of questions that allow them to be empowered in their own life. Now, what else is the focus? Well, coaching is present focused, or like one of my mentors would always say, we are present future with the client. What do we mean by that? Well, it's why coaches help their clients set goals. Here's where they are now, and the goal represents where they want to be in the future. Now, they can see that the future looks much different than right now, but what is there? There's a gap. You often hear coaches say that. There's a gap between where you are now and where you want to be. This is how you can live present future, because the now is present, but we are looking. And so over here, let's say that they're living at level 5 in their life, but they want to live at level 10, they can give you specifics as to what that looks like. And you know what we end up allowing them to do? They can, if you can see it, if you can get clear about what it is that you want in your life and how you want your life to look, then what that is going to enable you to do is to set certain types of action, because you know where you want to go. You start with the end in mind. Now we determine steps to get there. And this is how coaching is present future. Because again, I'm dealing with a person who has good lenses, but they might need to be cleaned or a little bit upgraded. But the lenses are healthy enough that I can at least get clear about what I want my future to look like, right? Now, coaching, as the opposite of counseling and therapy, is all about creating the future. It is not fixated on the past. We want to create the future. We're not trying to fix broken stuff. You know what we are doing? We are solution focused. Now, here's the crazy thing about the solutions, though, because in a coaching relationship, for those of you who think that coaching people is about giving people advice, it's not. I don't care if you're a great advice giver or you're a great problem solver. I don't care that you're a good fixer, because that's not what coaches are, okay? Some of you who think that, well, I should get paid for coaching because I've been giving advice for a really long time, that is not what coaching is. We're in a co-equal relationship. See, in counseling and therapy, and maybe other helping roles, you're not in a co-equal relationship. There's something that you know that you don't believe the client knows themselves. So what do? We think in a counseling and therapy role, or in a mentoring role, or in a consulting role, or any kind of advising role, or a pastoring role, or whatever, we think this person doesn't know what to do about their life. They're lacking the how. So I'm going to give them the knowledge that I have. I'm going to try to impart knowledge and help them get change. But that's not what coaching believes. What coaching believes is that we believe that people are whole. And we also believe that they are really great at coming up with their own solutions. So if I had that same picture, how is it co-equal? Well, notice how they are the same height, right? Well, here's the interesting thing, is that it's the coach that has all the questions. It's the opposite of counseling and therapy. The coach has all the questions, and the client, they are the ones that have the answers. So you know what we believe? We don't believe that this person's up a creek. We don't believe that they're clueless. We don't believe that they're untalented or any of those other kinds of things. You know what we believe? We believe that they've already thought through different options and solutions, but something's kept them from moving forward. A belief about themselves, a lack of accountability, some bad habits, some lack of practical steps, some beliefs about the options that they have. You know, like when somebody says, well, I can't do that. I'd never be able to do that. Well, they're out of the game. So we ask the question of, how can I? What am I doing and how can I? I can change my lens and I can start thinking. It's not impossible. How can I do that? And they might have some doubts about some of those options. They might have some doubts about themselves. They might have some doubts about their steps. They might have some fears, everything else. Everybody has fear. Everybody has fear. It doesn't mean that everybody needs to go see a counselor or a therapist because they have a phobia. It just means that, well, I don't know what's over there. You know what the opposite of fear is? It's certainty. Certainty that everything's predictable and I know exactly what's going to happen. And people choose the same life every day because, well, I'm afraid of what that looks like over there and it may not shake out. So at least, even though my life's pretty mediocre right now, I'm going to keep choosing it. So the only way that we can get the possibility of that new picture is to, fear's not going to go away. Courage, I don't need courage if I don't have fear. I don't need courage to stay doing the same thing over and over and over again. I'll speak that to some of you guys. You don't need courage to stay in your current job. You need courage to step out and step across the chicken line and become a coach, don't you? That's who I'm talking to even today, is that some of you have to have a lens change. You're going to change anybody's life in the world. You're going to help anybody. You're going to bring up the high water mark for other kinds of people. It starts with you. You coach yourself. That means that today, the only reason that you haven't taken a step over here to become a coach is because you need a lens change. Some of you who are like, well, I don't have enough money to get trained and certified. We've made it as low as possible. I understand you don't want to pay for a college education to get a credential. I understand that. You know, I went that route. It's the only option that I had back then. And that's the only thing that I knew that I could do. And I got real, but here's the thing. I was broke. I had a 400 credit score. I got really creative to come up with the thousands of dollars that I had. And I also slept in an airport in San Francisco overnight so that I took a red eye, slept in the airport so that I didn't have to pay for a hotel the first night. And then I stayed at a $60 a night Roach Motel. And that's calling it something nice because it was a yucky place on the bad side of town and everything else. And those are the decisions that I made. There's always a how to. There's always a possibility of something. It's a lens difference. You know, who loses the most if I don't go make that sacrifice? I can tell you who loses the most. If Paul doesn't go sleep in an airport and sleep in a Roach Motel and go there. My kids suffer because they watched us lose everything in 2007, like everything, where our junk was put in storage and the rest of it in the back of a van, and we had to go move in with people. I'm not telling you a hype story. That can really distort your lens. You know what that can do? That lens could make me, well, I'm just going to go for what's certain every day for the rest of my life and never try anything new because I've lost so much. And at a certain point, I had to realize that I'm not getting anywhere and bills are going up and my salary is not keeping up with inflation. And I knew I had to make a decision because it takes courage to take a step. It doesn't take any courage to stay where you're at. So whatever you believe about right now, about your finances and about becoming a coach and whether or not you can be successful, that's all we're talking about. I'm not telling you need counseling and therapy. You do need to clean your lens. I have one of the gnarliest, worst stories. My wife was chronically ill. She couldn't work. She was in bed until about 1 o'clock. I had to bathe my wife, and we had 2 small kids, and I was trying to work a full-time job. I'm not trying to give you a sad story. I'm telling you that I had every excuse in the world to keep wearing a lens. But it takes courage to take steps because I realized who was going to lose the most. And it wasn't going to be me because all I need is a couch. All I need is a microwave. I don't care. Give me some pizza rolls and a microwave and a toothbrush and a stick of deodorant, and I'm fine. But I couldn't take care of my kids in that same kind of way. For 3 months eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches 3 times a day when we had enough bread, that was how we were making it towards the end there when I was laid off for 6 months. So I just want you to know that I know what it takes when it comes to courage, but it was going to be at a certain point, it was harder to stay than it was to go and to move on. I didn't really have any other options. I had to do something else. That's why I'm saying to all of you, hey, it's only $195. Like, seriously. Like, I watched Jimmy Darts put a GoFundMe up, and he got $100,000 for someone who was homeless on the street yesterday. And I'm like, wow, you could find somebody, a few somebodies to help you put $200 together. It would be worth it. I got really creative. I asked for, I did everything that I needed to do to make something like that happen and find thousands of dollars when I had nothing. And why we stand here as a school and we're affordable. Main reason why we're so affordable, we don't have sales teams. Most schools pay their sales teams about 25% of what you're paying for tuition because that's how they're, and then they've got a lot of other kinds of overhead. We've had the same price for 10 years and we're not looking to up it. But we are looking for you to step across the chicken line, which isn't this chicken line. It's more like this chicken line. You're going to pay your education off with one client. And it only takes about 5 to become a 6-figure coach. It's really that easy. It's not the hardest business to start, but it does take starting everything with a step. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach and you've been like, man, it just takes too long and all this other stuff, we've got a live weekend online program coming up November 3rd through the 5th. That is our 3-day certification program. It's called Boot Camp. And again, that's not this weekend, it's the following weekend. What's included? Well, there's 7 powerful weekend sessions. Session 1 is the foundations of coaching. Session 2 is the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session. Session 3 is how to help your clients get extraordinary results. 4 and 5 is how to listen on a transformational level. 6 is how to ask powerful questions. And 7 is how to establish a growing coaching practice. The entire weekend includes live coaching demos and live Q&As at the end of each one of those sessions. What all is included? Well, you're going to get the 7 sessions with live Q&As and role playing. You're going to get coaching tools, question samples, coaching agreement, and intake samples. We've also now included a download so that we've given you a template for your coaching agreement, for invoicing, for your confidentiality agreement. We've literally put everything together inside of Canva. You can go in and pop your logo in and you can change the text and you have all of that stuff that's done for you already. We also give you the coaching toolkit starter pack, and it's 5 coaching tools that you can start with as you're working with your clients. You are going to get certified that weekend. You will receive a certificate. You will get HD replays and handouts from the entire weekend, and you will get free audits for life. The cost is only $247, but we're dropping that price to $195 through this Friday. So you can save basically a little over $50. After Friday, it's going back up to $247. Sorry, we can't keep it there, but this is a $3,500 program that you're getting for $195. There is a payment plan of $47 a month. The discount's not included in that. $47 a month for 6 months, or you can pay up front $195, and you can do this. You can absolutely make this happen. And we are into making a coaching certification in the realm of possibility for you. Had one of our coaches that reached out just today saying, hey, I got my first client. And after just working on and tweaking things for a couple of weeks, it's doable. And, that one client pays off your training and certification, which is amazing. Let me get over here really quickly and see if there's anybody else. Does anybody, and I'm 30 seconds ahead of you. So if anybody's got any thoughts or any questions, throw them in there. The link is inside the description right now to get enrolled. So I'm gonna highly encourage you, jump in there and click on that link and get enrolled as soon as possible, because then you're going to be able to save that money. You can also find that link inside of the email that we sent you to remind you about the training tonight. Awesome. Well, amazing. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care.